Pure, unadulterated Nunsploitation. That's what we're talking about here. Directed by Andy Crane and Nathan Shepka, we are talking The Baby in the Basket. And this is a 2024 Omen style horror movie. It focuses on this monastery in 1944, St Augustine's, and it's on a kind of an island, I believe, off the coast of Scotland. And effectively, we have a kind of group of nuns there, and there's a couple of like men who are like handymen. And one day there is a baby that is dropped off at the doorstep, and obviously the nuns take care of it. Now there is a storm at this kind of present time, so they can't take it back to the mainland. They've got to kind of look after it while this storm is kind of going on. But this baby seems to be influencing the nuns in a supernatural way, and possibly even a demonic way. Now, is this baby the Antichrist? Is it just something else? Is it just kind of in their imagination? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. So as I said, if you're a fan of Nunsploitation, then this movie may be the one for you. I mean, it kind of starts off relatively seriously, but we soon get into naked nuns dancing outside, nuns seducing the handymen, nuns going all kind of like satanic and things like this. Nun fights, yes, we have multiple nun fights in this movie. So this is all the Nunsploitation you could ever want in a modern movie. So it has a level of fun goofiness, I suppose, you could say, because as I say, it starts off with a relatively straight kind of narrative, and seems to be sort of taking it a little seriously. You know, we're introduced to the kind of our cast of nuns, and we've got, you know, one who is a little bit of a rebel and really doesn't seem to have much faith, but she's just kind of there. We've got the overbearing Mother Superior, we've got the kind of the pious one, etc., etc. So, you know, we're introduced to this cast of characters, and we get this handyman who's, you know, seems to be pleasuring himself with the thought of the nuns and things like that. So it's relatively kind of set up to be fairly kind of taking the subject matter seriously, but it ends up being quite the goof fest, I have to say. But it does have an element of fun, I have to say. Seeing nuns fist fight is, you know, is amusing, to be honest. And there are some kind of fun elements within the movie. There are some elements that I do think really lean into the kind of the satanic kind of imagery and stuff like that. So it's very clear about, you know, where it's kind of going and what's actually kind of happening here. The other thing I would say is the location shooting here is absolutely fabulous. I mean, I'm not quite sure where it was shot, but it looks like it was filmed on location in some type of, you know, cathedral or something like that. So it really gives it this sort of air of, you know, it's kind of authentic, to be honest, in that regards, in its sort of setting and things like that. So that I kind of really enjoyed. I'm glad they mixed that with a couple of like handymen, so we get a kind of like just an idea here about just the regular kind of people. And there's some kind of callbacks to like World War II and things, so we get a couple of kind of flashbacks to what sort of World War II. It's somewhat of a schlocky film, but it has an element of enjoyability because of that. And I think as the film progresses, the cast seem to be getting their groove on and having a little bit more kind of fun with the material as the movie sort of goes on. I mean, the story is reasonable. It is very kind of reminiscent of the Omen and things like that. But yeah, I don't think this you know, the actual story itself, I think is fairly kind of solid. The acting it's fine. All the acting here, I think, is okay. It's not a high budget movie, but I think everyone here does a decent enough job. So let's talk about what doesn't work. I just want to talk about the start of the film first of all. So this is set in 1944. But you'll be forgiven for thinking sometimes it feels a little bit too modern. So there are a few elements here that just kind of betray the time setting that it was kind of meant to be sort of taking place in. I think the tone of the movie and this tonal shift into the kind of the more sort of goofier sort of aspects of it may put people off. I mean, if you're a fan of like the A24 style highbrow horror, it almost betrays you in thinking that that's how it's going to be. I mean, I know we've had that Immaculate, was it, with Sweeney, whatever her name is, and you might be thinking you're in for the more of the same. You really aren't. It's kind of like it's such a goofy film when it ends up. So yeah, I mean, the tonal change might be a little disconcerting. I have to say, I think the budget, once we kind of get the reveal of what's going on and we see more of the supernatural elements here, boy, does the budget show. I'm not gonna hammer home too much about what exactly I'm talking about there because I don't want to spoil it, but my god, I mean some of the props they've used, let me just say this, the location shooting great, the props not so great. All I'm saying, it really does look cheap. In actual fact, I mean, you could even argue this kind of looks like a porn parody at times, just the kind of the presentation of it. I think the character choices and the way the characters are depicted in this movie, I feel characters go from one extreme to the other a little bit too quickly. It's not exactly nuanced. I don't necessarily blame the actors here. I think the acting is okay. I'm not saying it's stellar. I'm not saying this is like Oscar-worthy acting here. But for the script and the movie this is trying to be, I think the acting is okay. But it's just the character work themselves is... the characters either seem quite broad, or they'll make kind of turns that just seem unnecessary and a little bit too quick. There are a few kind of issues here where I wasn't quite sure where they were going in regards to some of the sequences. And yes, it's not an original movie, you know, a kind of demonic baby or whatever. We have seen it in movies before, and it ends up being maybe a little too goofy, to be honest with you, and it kind of really robs the film of any type of fear factor because it ends up just being so schlocky. Without really, I think, it knowing it's being super schlocky. I don't necessarily think this movie intended to be as schlocky as it's ended up, but it has ended up like that. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. I have to be honest with you, I think it's a slightly below average film. It's watchable, especially if you are a fan of kind of, as I said, the Nunsploitation kind of stuff. But you know, it's rough around the edges. This one. Would you see it based on what I've told you? Please let me know what your thoughts are, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.